that. So so Morrowind, you just got it.
Yeah.
And how is it, like, all around?
I mean, it's exactly what I remember it to be. It's difficult.
And that's great, isn't it? That's just a wonderful thing.
It's relieving. It's an escape from all the games that are geared towards people that want them to be accessible for everyone, even if they're not good at it.
Well, I mean, accessibility is one thing, but I think that at some point, there are just games out there that are more difficult or more...
You know what's accessible?
Time.
You know what kind of games are accessible? Racing games are accessible.
Yeah. And, because you just need a controller or like...
Right.
Hell, I mean, like, even other RPGs within the genre are really accessible.
Like Skyrim, yeah.
Yeah, like Skyrim.
Yeah.
Because Skyrim, they didn't put a system in it that could actually envelop within all the other systems that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
It's disappointing.
Yeah, like we were just
highly disappointing.
Fatigue in Morrowind is amazing because it directly impacts your day-to-day.
Yeah.
And then it works with the encumbrance system, and then and the speed, and
It will override your stats.
Yeah.
If your fatigue is low, it will override your base stats.
Well, you can't swing if you're tired.
No. Yeah. And you shouldn't be able to. That's the definition of stamina. Like, you shouldn't be able to.
No, you shouldn't. And because it's different. It's a different time frame.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, if you're going to play a game like those kind of old games, I really think you just have to let the systems overtake you and just run with them. It's part of the genre, part of what made them special. It is, yeah.
Hey everybody, what's up? This is Jack. I'm sitting here with Spy. This is Spy Behind Gaming TV. We make content surrounding games, industry news, and events going on in the gaming community. If that interests you, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That way you can stay updated as our content drops. And today we are going to be talking about a topic that, with the release of Elden Ring from FromSoftware.
Is it released already?
I don't know if it's released. They had something. I meant to get on there and look. They had something on Steam. I don't know if it was a beta. I don't know if it was what it was.
Maybe exactly. A pre-purchase or something. I don't know if it's actually out yet, but I know it is one of those games that people are really excited about, and I definitely want to try it because I'm into the Lord of the Rings stuff so heavily.
So this topic that is cropped back up, and it creeps up every so often, and it might be the company FromSoftware's fault because they made Dark Souls and they made some other games.
Well, when they released, it also happened whenever they released Shadows Die Twice, Sekiro.
That's it. That was the game. That was the game that I was reading about. So this issue of gameplay difficulty and like combat and mechanics and all this, I guess flies in the face of everything that people want. Apparently, people want inclusivity and accessibility, so everybody can take part in the hobby. Like you go get a racing game. That's cool. You're playing a game. Like, don't ruin the games that I like because you're not good at it and you think you should be. But here's the thing too: you can be. You just got to put the time in.
Well, that's with every game, I think, is that it's an art form, Yeah. Like, you can't expect a book that you're reading about something that's like, maybe it's a book that you're reading that has relevance to, like, psychology or whatever. Like, if you're reading a book and it has large words that you don't understand, well, that's upon you now to understand what is being portrayed to you.
Right. I think in general, people are too lazy to break out the dictionary or the equivalent, when it comes to anything else.
But we live on, we're on the internet every day.
Right.
And I think, like, it's not as hard as you might think it might be to just Google and if you don't understand a mechanic, there's no, like, shame in Googling it.
Right.
And, like, there's no shame in doing what you need to do to beat these games. Like, if you have to cheese every mechanic, that's what you got to do. Mm-hmm. But if you beat it, you beat it. That's all it works down to. And, games are an art form of their own, and you have to enjoy the medium in which they are given to you in some way. And that's like, FromSoftware games are always difficult, and we all know that, and that's why I was actually a little bit like skeptical of picking up Elden Ring, because I don't typically like their combat style myself. Mm-hmm. Now, I played Dark Souls 1, and I beat it, but I didn't enjoy it. Like, personally, I just didn't enjoy it. It's just not my cup of tea. But I am willing to go and try Elden Ring because it's Lord of the Rings, and I want to see more from that universe. So, like, at a certain point, I mean, I'm just gonna fucking go in and do it.
Right. My thing is this. So, yeah, it's a hobby. But here's the thing. There are a lot of different genres of games in the gaming hobby. You have, devout followers of certain franchises like myself and I would say Spy here, the Elder Scrolls. Like, I just, as you heard, I just recently purchased Morrowind again. I got it on the PC.
Which is not the platform you originally bought it on.
No, it's not. I had it on the Xbox.
Which has been a long time since you played it.
Yeah, it's the game is 20 years old, but like it won, or what was it? I think it won some kind of award. But then, like, when I started playing the game, I'm like, oh yes, here it is. This is what the Elder Scrolls franchise stands for in my mind, because it was the first encounter that I had with that particular series. And so as I was going through the character creation process, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get everything I can out of this character. So I built it in a way where I'm going to get punished for a little bit, but when I'm not getting punished anymore, like the game, I'm going to breeze through it, because every one of my stats are going to be so high, and all of my, abilities are going to be so high, I'm going to be able to effectively get to level 78. Like, and that's not a lot of people do that, I
mean, you're min-maxing, and you said you don't even know that term, like the earlier, but that, min-maxing is a thing that people like me and you do quite often, where we don't always min-max heavily,
right?
But we min-max enough to where we can see the benefit of it, because there is a certain level of benefit of min-maxing, and there's a certain level where it's just too fucking far. Like,
I probably took it too far.
Maybe a little, but I think you're gonna get rewarded for it.
Right, and that's how I go by playing these games.
It's more like diminishing returns. You know what I mean? I think that's the way of looking at it. It's diminishing returns. Like, how far are you gonna push this specific character to go,
right, to
get to here? And at a certain point, it's not exactly worth it anymore, because at like level 60, you're gonna just one-shot Vivek.
So funny story, at a level 60, after the next 18 levels are just going to be health boosts.
Right.
Essentially.
You're going to be basically enchanting and all that other, like, right now is the grind.
Yeah.
Which is a thing that we were talking about. It's just not in many games anymore.
It's not.
And
it's not at all.
You know what? There's a difference between what we mean with the grind and grinding than what's in games today.
Yes.
Because some games put an arbitrary grind right in front of you. Like,
right.
Collect 400 crystal fragments. And you're like, what's the fuck? Like, why am I doing this to get one piece of gear? But, like...
Right. I can find a better piece of gear somewhere else, probably.
Right. Like, and that's the bullshit of a lot of new grinds. But the old grinds were, like, character-defining grinds.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, I remember spending, like, a whole day of playing, just preparing.
Yeah.
Preparing for no reason other than I really, really, really wanted the Lord's Mail.
Yeah.
And I wanted it really bad on this character, and I knew I wasn't ready. So I spent the whole day before just leveling my character, making potions, doing all this shit, because I'm going to walk in there, I'm going to get the Lord's Mail when I go in there.
Right.
But I know if I walked in there right now, I'm dead.
Yeah.
And so I just did it,
Yep. It just happens.
I mean, chug enough Sujama and get yourself endurance boosts enough and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things that, like, there's definitely a defining trait within every game you play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think FromSoftware has that defining trait of difficulty.
It does. Yeah, there seems to be a darker form more often than not. They have a darker form of, like, storytelling and like just the overall game itself is a little bit darker than most games, and then it's more difficult. Otherwise, people wouldn't be talking about it. The thing that irked me the most, I was reading an article, and I don't know, maybe it was on Screen Rant or whatever, but I was reading an article and it was talking about the difficulty of Elden Ring's combat system and the fact that it may drive people away from the game. And I'm like in my head, you know what? I'm okay with that, because if you're not willing to put the time in to get good at it, like, you don't need to be here anyway.
Well, if you want to play a Lord of the Rings game, there are 2 games already out that have come out within the last, I think, 5 years, which are Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of Mordor 2. And if you want to play those games, there you go. There's your Lord of the Rings. If you are looking at it and you're like, I want to play a new Lord of the Rings game, and say you haven't been playing games up until now, or like, you know, you're someone who wants to play just Lord of the Rings games, there are 2 games that are relatively easier and have difficulty like selection, so you can play on easy.
Right.
And if you want to play those games, then you have those 2 games to play. If you want to take your skill to the next level and get what would be probably a good experience from what I'm hearing, because FromSoftware games are always good story games. Mm-hmm. If you want to play them, then you have to put in the work for it. You have to, you know, and it's a hobby, like you said, and like building cars is a hobby.
Right.
But like, there's a difference between a novice and a master crafter. Yeah. And everywhere, and you can tell when you take your vehicle to a mechanic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't know. I don't want to see this idea that every game should be accessible to everyone, because here's number one, they already are. You can buy the game, you can play the game, you can, you know, if as long as you have the console to put it on, you can buy it, you can play it, and whether or not you put the time into it, that's kind of on you. That's not the game's fault. Like, if it's a difficult game, okay. Like, plenty of people log in online to like Call of Duty Black Ops or Modern Warfare or whatever people are playing the most right now, and every time they log in, they spend their entire gameplay getting killed. So their kill death ratio is crap.
But they get the last stuff. They get the gear. They get or the end stuff that they want.
Right. They're like, you have to put the time in to get good at a game. Don't take that away. Like, there's plenty of us out here that enjoy that aspect. Don't take it away. I know that I can't remember if I've exactly spoken about it on any of the videos on this channel or not, but I'm going to speak some Greek for a minute, because I am a little bit older than what I imagine the audience is, and I remember games that were, you know, they're way over 20 years old. So,
which we have a pretty large
there's pretty good diversity in the ages and everything. So I may be speaking to some of you, but
anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, there was an early RPG that came out. It was on the Super Nintendo system, so the SNES. It was called Breath of Fire.
You've been talking a lot about that this week.
Because it represents everything that is wrong with the newer style, all-inclusive RPGs.
It got a release on Switch, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, so the second, there are 4 installments in that series. The second one was recently released on Switch, and it got some kind of shout-out on one of the bigger, I forget which one, but one of the bigger like gaming industry, like media outlets.
Yeah.
So, you know, they put this thing out, and they're like, hey, play this Lost to Time RPG before it goes away, you know, and you can play it for free on Switch. It's Breath of Fire 2. You can play it for free on Switch as long as you're
subscription.
Yeah, as long as you have this subscription. So Breath of Fire 2 was good. I enjoyed it. It took me a long time to get my hands on it because it was so good that you couldn't find a copy of it. So, and Breath of Fire 1 was the same way, but I spent more time playing Breath of Fire 1, but so to get to the point of the story the point that I want to make with the story is this. So I played through, you know, the first half of the game, and I'm thinking, hey, I'm doing well, and it very much, like, the game very much gives you this sense that you're coming to the end of the story, and then you have this dungeon that you go through, and you have this, you know, this epic boss fight, and it's It's a end game boss fight. After the boss fight, you find out it was just the middle of the game. But when you do this, like when you're going through this battle, it is absolutely 100% a level check. It's like, if you can't beat this, you shouldn't fucking be here right now. Go back, get better, and then come back.
Get gear.
Yeah,
get
right.
gear,
like,
get
level
levels.
the fuck up, get better weapons, get better, everything.
Well, that is something that's missing. That is something, because I've been playing, while you've been talking about all that, I've been playing Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2.
Yeah.
Or not Dark Alliance 2, Dark Alliance 1. Because it got re-released on the Switch, actually, and I bought it. It was, I think, $30 or something, and I really enjoy it. Because it was a game from my childhood more so, and because it's a different generation here between us both. You're a bit older than me, but a PlayStation 2 game, and even then, you can tell that like that game was centered around levels.
Yeah, the phenomena of being all inclusive and accessible to everyone. Like, I think that's a crap analogy, number one, because it is accessible to you. Like, if you're not good at it, look, here's the thing. If you're not good at football, you're not going to win at football. If you're not good at baseball or basketball or anything else like that, you're not going to win. You have to practice, you have to get good, and then you start winning. Same thing applies to certain games, like certain genres of games more specifically, like RPGs or action adventure or whatever, Like, if you're not good at it, put some time in. Like, start the game over on a separate save, right? And figure out what you're fucking up on your main save, and then go back. Or you may find out, hey, look, I screwed this up. I may need to start over.
Right.
Which is fine. Like, that's a thing. It's like, if you bought the game to play it once, you shouldn't have bought the game, because it's probably not a good game.
And a lot of games, when it comes down to it, that's another thing you're talking about there, is that we used to play a game multiple times. Well, first time was really just a trial, because you didn't know what the fuck you're getting into.
Yep.
Like, hell, how many characters have I made in Oblivion? Like, even within the time you've known me.
Yeah.
Like, it's so many years of just characters. Specific. Like, I played one character for like a year and a half straight, and then stopped, and then I played my Morrowind character for like a year.
Right.
And then guess what? Well, I have 3 new characters that I've been just playing on Oblivion. Like, right now I'm playing the Orc, and then after this I'm thinking of archery build, and like,
these things give you different dynamic play styles, and that's the point of playing. Like, and different games have different reasons for playing them more than once. Like, games that allow you to choose like a good or a bad alignment, or a good and evil alignment. That's a reason to play the game again. Like, play a good playthrough, play an evil playthrough, and then try like fuck to play a neutral playthrough. Like, those are the hardest,
Neutral is almost always the hardest, because it requires you to be both.
Yeah.
Evil and good.
Yes. You have to make enough decisions from both sides to like balance it out, right?
And that's something we remember from Star Wars, the Knights of the Old Republic, is that, my first playthrough I ever did was evil, because I always end up playing the evil playthroughs first.
They're more fun, like they just are.
I think that's us specifically. I know my brother specifically always doesn't. He always goes for the good playthroughs first.
I know people like that. I think it's an overexposure of like, and I'm not knocking it, because I enjoy it, but I think it's an overexposure of like hero type protagonists, like the Batmans and Supermans, X-Men, and all this stuff.
Yeah, you're Dovahkiin.
You're like
Dragonborn.
I can be fucking Darth Sidious right now. Like, so I'm gonna play that, because you don't have that option. You never had that option before.
No, you don't. And it's one of those things that games allow you to do so much if you just invest the time to getting into them. And that's what we're really coming from on, is that, we built our entire channel off inclusivity in a way, but let's be fair that not everyone is going to enjoy every type of game.
No. And
it's just like every other hobby.
Yes.
Not all card guys like imports or domestics.
No.
Not every,
car people may be the most like vehement about that. Like,
well, yeah.
Ford people are like, fuck you, Dodge, and fuck you, everybody else, and all those groups are like that. Like,
well, hell, we live in a little bit of a down area town, and I drive a Nissan sports car. And I definitely know a lot about that, where it's,
it's a thing, man.
And you don't show up in my 240 to a bunch of Mustang group, what I mean? You're going to get laughed out of there. And even though I could probably beat them, you're going to get laughed out.
It just, it just is what it's the nature of anything that is a hobby. Like you've got I think we talked, me and you had a discussion about this, about ESO. You have your recreational people, and then you have your hardcore elitists,
which
right?
ESO definitely has not much of a middle ground. No. I think that's one thing that we can say about ESO since we play it a lot.
Yeah, there's not a middle ground.
It's difficult to find people who are in middle ground, where it's difficult. I imagine, and like I sent you that whole text last night where it's like that also is because of the systems in it because you can build a character that's anything, meaning that who's giving heroism? Who's giving this? Who's doing this? And, and then you got people who are like, if I don't have every buff, there's an issue. Yes. And then you have other people who are like, but like the things are dying and it's going quick enough. Let's not worry about it. And then, but I mean, that's the thing about games is that it's the beautiful thing about Elder Scrolls Online is that it allows you to play in so many types of ways.
It does. And you know what? I'll say this too. I'll say that's only with the easier content or what they call the normal content.
Yeah.
Like,
veterans
I can run through. Yes, veterans are a whole different thing. Like, if it's a normal, I can solo normal dungeons, and my tank is not a damage dealer. Like, he deals enough damage to carry, but you know why? Here's why. Because the other damage dealer that's in the group isn't doing what he should be doing.
Yeah.
And the healer is not doing what he should be doing. So I had to take a pet ability that heals me over one that does more damage that I should have been able to take, but I can't trust healers. Like,
remember that? What was it? It was Dark Shade, and we grouped in, and I had been farming that automaton set for so. I spent 3 days just logging on, farming it like 6 hours. I couldn't get the damn mace.
Yeah.
And just for no reason, just fuck me. And it was like every day, like 4 to 6 hours farming that for 3 days straight. And I got it. Now that's hardcore.
That's grind.
That's a grind. Exactly. And like we were saying is that there is a difference between grind now and grind before, but going forward on it.
Right.
I went in and I fucking got the mace. And I was so happy. But then we queued for our random normal that day. Because we wanted our transmute crystals on our characters, and we got it. And it was me and the Sork, the warden, who had been doing it the whole time. And I feel bad a little bit for those other two guys that grouped up with us.
Because they just got pulled along. Like, and I think, you know what? Look, all right, I'll say this. I think out of the two groups, we're probably elitists, even if we don't mean to be.
Well, I think that we're not fully elitists, but we come across it a bit more because I think it's because we put so much time into like planning and going forward.
So the time that I think we talked about this on one of these commentaries, but the time that the first veteran dungeon that we queued for and got into, and we killed the boss. And then these guys are like, you guys ain't pumping enough DPS. And we were like... And they just left. They didn't kick us from the group or anything.
Right, yeah.
We're not that, like... Come on, you better keep up or you're going to left behind, and there's probably a door that's going to shut and keep you on the other side of it.
Well, we're not going to... If we can kill it and we know we can kill it, we're not going to kick you.
Right.
Like, it's your choice if you want to come along.
Right.
And plus, it's going to be free gear for you and a free XP bonus as well. But if you don't want to come along, then you can leave. But realistically, if we can kill it on our own, we're just going to go ahead and kill it on our own, and it's your choice. And I think that's a better way of being about it. It's not being really that much elitist as much as it is, we know what we can do.
Right.
And if you want to continue, you can come with. And
I think it probably gets viewed that way. And like, I know I've made that, like, while we're playing, I've made that statement before. You have. I'm like, people that group with us in dungeons are probably thinking these guys are assholes. We're not really being assholes. We're just clearing the dungeon and you're not following. And we're running ahead, but you're not keeping up either. Like, it's mutual.
Well, everything's glued to you already. And then if it's not glued to you, I have it running behind me. And, and realistically, I mean, we're running far enough ahead, pulling everything and bleeding and dotting it up far enough that it's not going to go on to you. And if you're a low-level character, you're probably going to be all right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in good care. It's just like, we're not going to leave you behind. We're also just going to go ahead and do our thing. And,
right.
And I think that's where I think the elitist idea comes in, is that we also put a lot of time into the mechanics of our character. Yes. Like, we understand the stats more. And that comes from so many years of just hardcore old RPGs.
Yeah.
Of like where stats were king.
Yes. I think back to the Morrowind thing, like I think that's part of why I went ahead and bought the game again. Like Steam had it on sale, and I don't know if it's still going or not.
Yeah, you bought it
like
for
$5. You know?
Yeah, you bought it for a Subway sandwich worth of money. Actually, not even that much. It's more now for Subway. Jeez.
But like, I wanted to go back to a place in gaming like history where there are heavy mechanic systems, and like you have to understand them and use them right, and like, and they overlap and interconjoin. You know, like there's like five attributes that go into what is it?
Like your damage or your crit or
no, I forget now.
Are you talking about Morrowind or are you talking about Elder Scrolls?
Morrowind. Well, it's like your it's like willpower, or it's intellect, willpower, strength, and endurance.
Yeah, you got a bunch of different stats that go in,
and they go like hand in hand to determine something else.
Oh, you're talking about like with carry weight, even if we're going with something as light as carry weight. I mean, you move slower. Yes. Whenever you are carrying more items.
Yes.
And which will drain your fatigue faster.
Right. Which then in turn causes you to move slower.
Which makes you do less damage.
Yes.
So it all is wrapped in. The more fatigue you have.
Right.
And the more things you're carrying and the more things that you're killing. It all comes down to like, eventually you're going to get tired.
Yeah.
Like you cannot sprint through an entire like... You cannot sprint through an entire Dwemer cavern.
No.
And that's something that you can do in Skyrim, where you don't stop when you start.
It's a stamina system. And you know what? Look, like somebody Google stamina for me, please. Because that is the definition of what stamina is. And I think it was a more accurate system whenever they called it fatigue and it operated in that way. Like So like your stamina, right, is your level of energy that you have to like physically perform something. You can't, like with low stamina, you can't be effective. You are, like you said, tired. You are not going to swing the sword as accurately or as hard as you would if you had full fatigue or stamina, whatever you want to call it.
It's almost like your daily amount of energy. When you wake up in the morning in real life, you have like if you slept 8 hours, you feel good. You know, you ate enough the day before, you ate your breakfast and all that stuff, and then what happened? All right, so if you think about it, right, can you as a person run through a giant cavern straight up just sprinting it?
No.
Wearing full chainmail.
Especially not packing 200 out of 300 carry weight.
Right, And then, what do you have to do? Well, at some point, you're going to have to stop and make a campfire.
Yeah.
And if by doing that, you might get yourself an extra hour or two by spending an hour just sitting.
Yeah.
But you can only really go so far with your daily allotted amount of energy.
Right.
Continuing forward at some points it's going to have that diminishing return of like, I got to sleep, man. Like I'm about to pass out. I'm like tired. I'm exhausted. Like,
and so, obviously it doesn't manifest that way in the game, but like that's the point of what that system actually represents. And it's irritating that it's just like every character in every game ever now is Superman and some kind of hero of something, and it's like, no, fuck off, you're not. You're nobody until you get good. And then even then you might not be anybody. Like
when I played, it's been a little bit since I played Skyrim, right? But I did play Skyrim like not that long ago, and that really just that hits it home. You feel like you're God. You're running through. You got Dawnbreaker in one hand, and then you just don't stop. Like it's run, kill, run, kill, run, kill. There's never a point when I can remember where I use the wait function.
Right.
But in Oblivion, if you guys have seen our new lore video, you watching the footage, I stop and wait after like almost every fight. Because they were brutal fights, and it was more beneficial for me to just click wait, get my stamina, my magicka, and health back, and just take the hour to wait. And that's a representational like thing, and it's not like fully like shown in a realistic manner, but it's representational.
Yeah, I mean, you can, game developers and programmers can only capture like certain aspects of things, but I think when they do, and it's like a realistic, like something like that should be realistic in my opinion. Like you shouldn't. So I'll say this before, like I will go ahead and say this: the craft bag that you get for being an ESO Plus member is life saving. You would never craft anything if you didn't have it, because you would be expected to carry that around and everything else, and you can't do that shit without a craft bag that just like makes it, goes into.
I run out of bag spaces with a craft bag just full of gear. Like you run a few dungeons and you're just full.
Yeah. So
imagine if you had a bunch of flowers in there as well.
It's not gonna happen. Like you've got, iron ingots and whatever, rubidite,
Yeah, where are you gonna put that in your bank? Wait, no, you're not gonna put that in your bank, dude.
My bank's full.
My bank is full of just gear. Like I don't think I have anything in my bank other than just gear. And that's across my entire account, and I'm like
I have very little else besides gear, but it serves a purpose. Like,
well, half of that gear I don't know if I'm gonna use, but I'm keeping it because like I don't know, maybe this will fit into a build someday, and
transmute crystals are hard to get, except for in that video.
I mean, like they're hard enough to get, but like they're not hard. Like you can get, if you play one character, you get enough transmute crystals every day and a half. If you play two characters, it's every day. You can get every transmute crystal you need done for each trait one day, every day, for two characters. But it's just like, there's a bit of a grind there.
There is, yeah.
And it also feeds into the other systems of the game.
Yes.
Like,
that is a good way to balance the grind with accessibility. Like if it's gonna happen, that's a good way to do it. Like
because it's a grind that you already had to have been established within the world for. Because if you don't have the traits learned on that character, that doing that transmuting is gonna be worthless to you. Like transmute crystals mean nothing if your character has no traits researched. So when it comes to it, the grind of it is not just the grind, but it's the grind of being established first within the universe that you're in. And, I think we may go a bit more. I think a lot of people don't think about it as far as we do on it. Because we definitely go like farther. We go into representational things. And like we were talking about with hit chance. Like if you pulled hit chance out of Morrowind, the game is fundamentally different now.
Oh, yeah. And you just broke the gameplay.
Yeah, because if you can make a model collide, you now hit. But that's an issue.
Yeah.
Because Morrowind systems work on luck and your hit chance and their skill and then their gear compared to your and it's all these
their evasion chance,
that's why whenever you fight the guy with 100 luck, you really can't hit him. And it's while you only see that your sword hit him and missed, it's representational of a real battle where, like, imagine you with a claymore, swing your sword, and then you just hit his hair on his arm. And, like, you're like, I am trained. Like, I've been fighting with this weapon for 30 levels, and I can't hit him. And it's like, why can't I hit him? I've been able to hit everything. I never miss, but he's stabbing you in the back now. And it's like, because he's just lucky like that. His life is only lucky. Like he's in a privileged position of luck. And now you're sitting there with a claymore in your hands like, fucking shit. Like, I'm trying to stab you.
So on the subject of luck, this is off the subject, but I'm going to be able to max luck out. My Morrowind character.
I'm upset that you're taking the investment to do it.
I'm going to do it.
Only because I've never made a character in Morrowind that does it.
I haven't either. That's kind of why I want to see it.
Well, it's one level every
you only get 1 point.
Which means that you have to be level 50 to even have it. Like, I'm not actually 50 because
It's 60 because your baseline's 40, unless you make it one of your favorite trades. Well, you get a 10-point boost.
Even then, like some races actually have lower luck.
Yeah.
And higher luck too, which is something that they standardized in Oblivion, which every race now has 50.
I think so. I want to say after the Morrowind patch that they did to like stabilize the game, every race only has 40 luck.
You know, I think that would probably be better. I think 40 luck's kind of better. When you're a new character, let's be honest, like you got 50 luck. You got a 50-50 chance of everything happening and not.
Right.
And that's kind of like, that seems a little high for a guy who just got off a boat.
Right. You're level 1. You don't know how to hold the sword yet. Like, you shouldn't be that lucky.
And we're over here asking for more grinds. That's our issue, I think. I think that's why we don't understand.
That's where these games came from. That's like, it's a different group of gamers now, or there's at least a big enough number of them.
Yeah.
That they're like, no, fuck that. We don't want none of that shit. Like, all right, we'll go play a racing game or Madden. Like, go play Madden, okay? Because
we ask for more mechanics in our games, like, constantly.
Yeah.
And it's mechanics that are long. Options. It's long mechanics, too. Like, we never ask for mechanics that are, like, short-term.
No.
And because short-term mechanics never pay off.
No, they're bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's what World of Warcraft had to learn, because every single expansion that they released had one big system, and then the next expansion, the system's gone. Like, I remember telling you that your gear becomes outdated every expansion, and you were fucking confused a little.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. But if you played the game, that's just how it works. Like, you trade in your epics for greens every expansion.
That's garbage.
Level 101, or whatever the next level is, like, well, next expansion will be 70, right? Because it's 60 right now, and they're going to probably just do the same issue that they got themselves into the first time. Because it's fucking Blizzard. Cube crawling. I'm never gonna let them go. I'm never gonna let that go on them.
No, that's asinine.
It is. But next level, you're gonna hit 61, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna trade in every single purple item you have on your gear. You're gonna trade in the mythic level raid gear, your high-end stat. By level 63, it'll all be gone.
Right.
You'll be wearing greens. And they won't have a set bonus, because set bonuses are no longer a thing they do in WoW.
Right.
Which I can't fucking fathom. Like, I don't know how you're gonna have an RPG without like gear of specialty. Like
why would you have? All right, so what's the point in collecting an entire set of gear if there's no benefit in having the entire set?
There is no point in gear at all whenever you know it's gonna be gone.
Right.
It's a treadmill.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be straight with you, like, it's every raid reset as well. Like, people have always talked about this, and people say we don't play WoW anymore, we play the expansion. I would go farther than that, and I would say we don't even play the expansion, we play the patch.
Right.
Which I don't play it anymore, but that's the thing, is like, you play the patch of it. Because the patch has the raid gear in it, and then when the next raid comes out, well, then all your purples are just gone again. Right. Like, and you just replace them with new shit. And then they bring in a new system that's garbage, and you do that system now. And then you just continue a grind. And then after all that grinding, like, you got the Ashbringer and Legion. And then, that's a fucking holy weapon. Like, that is like a sacred weapon. Because it's been in the files of the game since vanilla. And you couldn't get it until Legion. Like, that's like 15 years or something. Like, you couldn't get this item, right? And now they gave it to you. And paladins are excited about it. And then you leveled it up. Like, mine was fucking maxed out.
Yeah.
Like, I did the grind hard. And then they updated it. And I fucking grinded again. Like, because every time they put an update to it, I was there. Like, I got that weapon maxed out. And then, as soon as Battle for Azeroth came out, the artifacts just went bloop, and they lit all the passives, all the talents, all the skills in it, everything. They were immediately gone.
So, I know we have, they're calling it Waking Flame DLC coming.
Yes.
I think it's just coming Monday to PC and then the week after to consoles for Elder Scrolls Online.
That's because they have to pay the Xbox and PlayStation to update the game. So they kind of roll in patches together a bit more.
So
it makes sense, though, because PC is more of a testing ground. Like, you can hotfix PC any day. You can't do that with consoles.
From what I understand of it, there's some good stuff coming out of it. There's going to be some graphical updates because they're sticking with DirectX 11 instead of moving to 12, and they have
there's more support there. There's more support there. I understand that.
It's going to open up graphics, basically higher end graphics for people who are CPU locked. Which I think is beneficial because there's so many integrated units out there, or what do they call them? APUs.
Yes.
So many APUs. I think it's more cost effective. Like, not everybody has a high end gaming computer.
Such as yourself, even you run an APU.
Right. Yeah. I have like a mid level gaming laptop,
which you should see some benefit from this. So that's going to be nice for you. And I mean, you don't have any issues with frame rate.
No.
Because you've lowered your graphics a little bit here and there.
Yeah, just enough to keep the frame rate up.
Right.
Like, if I start seeing 9 frame rate, I'm gonna punch the laptop. Like, that's unacceptable in the world of technology we live in.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing: you went from a console to a PC. You should probably at least be getting the same frame rate as you would be.
Yeah. And then, so there's going to be, funny enough, there's going to be some rebalancing of some of the armor. So the armor skill lines are getting rebalanced. I think light and medium mostly. Actually, I don't think heavy's getting any kind of change.
I don't think I've seen any with heavy. Now, I'm actually excited for the medium armor change.
I think they're both good because that is like the start of
diversification of gear.
Yeah, and catering to a hybrid build. Right, or a balanced build, however you want to put it.
Which we talked about this last week, and I'm really happy that as soon as we talked about it, the next day we see the patch notes and we're like, holy shit, it's happening.
Yeah.
And now I'm not saying our things was what did it, and obviously these have been in work for a while.
Right.
But it's funny that we were on the same page there, where everyone kind of wants to see more hybridization apparently, and that's good.
Yeah, because I mean, as it stands right now, you're pigeonholed into a particular type of build, either your stamina build or your magicka build, and it's really, really, really just overwhelmingly difficult to be both. I know Templars, if I understand correctly from everything that I've seen on a Templars, they handle it the best. Yeah, that's
why the fuck? Look, I played a Templar.
Don't need a fucking buff.
I played a Templar. I'm gonna have to smoke a cigarette because of this. I have played a Templar for long a goddamn enough to know that Backlash doesn't need a buff.
None of it. No Templar or anything needs buffs. Like they're really difficult to kill, and that's coming from somebody who's got a developing Dragon Knight.
Well, not only are they
the Dragon Knight look like a little bit like a bitch.
Well, they're unkillable for one, and then two, they also do shredding amounts of damage.
Yeah.
Like, they rip and tear more than Nightblades who go invisible constantly.
Right.
And
that's another thing too that's changing that I've heard, and I wasn't aware of this. Apparently, sorcerers that use Overload can knock a Nightblade out of stealth. Here's the thing: you can see the Nightblade sometimes. I don't know what causes that. I don't play one. I never have played one, so I don't know if it's like a difference of skill being used.
I think it's distance. I think I'm pretty sure it's distance.
Could be it. I know sometimes when we're playing like some battlegrounds or something, I can see the Nightblade and I try to hit them, but they're in stealth and it doesn't do anything. And I'm like, all right, well, if I knew this overload thing, I would have been running that the whole time. Because if I can see you, I'm knock you out of it because you ain't always good.
Well, no. I think invisibility definitely. It needs a buff and a nerf at the same time, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I think it needs a duration increase. It's 3 seconds, which is just
not very long.
I think where I think it should be, and this is my WoW mind coming in, I think it should just be a toggle. Yeah. And then once you come out of it, you can't go back in it for like just 12 seconds.
Or like you write, I don't know if I'm assuming it's an ability. It has to be hinged to some resource that you have. Like,
it's Magicka.
Maybe it burns the resource, and if you get, after you've burned so much of the resource, then you come out of it.
Well, it's only Magicka. You cast it once. It's Magicka. It's cheap as well.
Right.
I really think what I think a balancing fix for it would be, and this is someone who plays a Nightblade, is just make it where it is toggleable. You toggle it on, you're invisible until you attack, and then you can't re-enter stealth for like 12 to 15 seconds. Which means that whenever you commit to an attack, you commit, and then make it increase crit or something, like give it a small buff, but also make it less like pop in, out, in, out.
Right.
Make it more...
Should not be spammable.
Right.
That type of thing shouldn't be spammable.
Well, because it's a cloak, and a cloak is only really as effective as you are at stealth.
Right.
And I think that's really where it comes in. Like, if I come up to you behind you and I hit you hard enough, well, that's my opener and you're half health, so come at me.
Right.
But if I have to stealth behind you and then recast it every time to get closer and closer,
right,
and I'm half mana, it's like, why am I even doing this? But then, you can hit me, and then I can just go, nah, I'm going to leave, bye, and then just leave.
Right.
Like, that's not fair to you, and that's not fair to me. And all I gotta do to make juke you is just walk one way, cast it, and then just walk past you.
Right.
Like...
I'm excited to see the changes that I have heard are coming in the update.
Which is, go on about the materials, the heavy and light. You didn't explain that yet, I cut you off.
So, alright. It's been a little bit since I looked at it. And I'm running a tank, so I don't really wear like medium and light armor that much. I have, I think, a medium like shoulder piece or for the monster set or whatever, but
I'm really excited about the medium piece.
So you got, you get straight damage in one and like crit damage in the other one, or crit rate, one of the two.
Yeah, I think
and they're both getting more balanced in.
They're gonna both have weapon and spell.
Right. All the damage boosters are gonna be physical and spell damage.
Which I think makes sense. I honestly, at a certain... I think that it makes sense that they're two stats.
Yeah.
But gear should just go ahead and give both.
Yeah.
Like, if you're... because we already have abilities. Like, Major Prophecy and Major
well, and you
Savagery.
Can enchant them.
Yeah.
You can enchant, you can put like, the whole trait system exists.
Yes.
Like, and then you have gear sets that do specific things. Like the fact of it's medium or it's light or it's heavy should just do whatever it does for everybody, I think.
I think gear locking is not the proper way, and I think this is fixing that. Gear locking meaning, like, if you're wearing medium and you're geared out in medium, and even if it's a medium set that increases mana.
Right.
Like, because there are a few.
Right.
Then you should be allowed to just go on with it.
Well, so think about this. Any craftable set, right? You can craft it in any way. And then you also, this is another thing that bothers me, or has bothered me up until, I think, maybe after this DLC patch, whatever you want to call it. So in the Undaunted skill line, you have the Undaunted Metal passive, which rewards you for wearing all three types. Like, in the best that you can get out of it is you have to have at least 2 of every type on. Yeah. That's a punishment. Like, that's fundamentally a punishment.
Well, it's going to lower your damage if you're a stamina build.
Yes.
It actually rewards you, but if you're a Magicka build, it hampers you.
Yes.
Whereas, and that's kind of it doesn't fit completely because...
No, it's the weight of the armor you're wearing.
Yes.
Like, whatever's there should just be a passive for whoever wears it. Like, you have ways of going about being more specialized with it, but in my mind, so like it's the Undaunted skill line, for Christ's sakes. It's the dungeon delving, like...
These changes still reward specialty as well.
Yeah, they do.
Which is why I'm okay with it. A lot of changes, like, when you see changes like this, a lot of people scream and yell about how it's like making everything simpler. Right. Which it is making things simpler, but this is a good simple, where it's not changing the gear, like the amount of specialty it gives.
Right.
What it's doing is allowing more freedom in the movement of gear.
Right.
So now you don't get crit rating out of your gear, your medium gear.
Right.
You get crit damage,
right.
which is beneficial more to some builds and less beneficial to others. Myself, I'm actually going to lose a good amount of crit rating.
Right.
But I have a buff for it, which means
you get
that
a monster set that does it. You know,
right.
you have other ways.
And that's what I'm actually going to do is, since this whole change is coming out, I'm going to wait and see, because I haven't checked the PTR yet.
There are new monster sets coming.
Right. So I'm going to check it whenever it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole idea is that I want to make sure I'm at the right crit rating, because this is my crit build, which has been in the works for a while now. You know, I'm going to probably lose a good 5 to 10% crit chance,
right? Which
is going to hamper me, but 10% more crit damage is going to turn me into 95% crit damage, and
that's going to be far more problematic. Like when it pops, you know,
right? And
if you're talking about the difference between 75 and 65% crit rating, but you're talking about the difference of, you know, hundreds of crit damage difference.
Yeah,
that for sure offsets it.
And that's where it comes down to, is it how, you know, it's not simplification, I don't think, on this. It's more along the lines of adaptability being increased.
Yeah.
You know, I could actually now, with this whole thing going out, since light armor is going to increase my crit rating, I even can see a beneficial using light armor.
Yeah.
And I could even beneficially see running 2 pieces of light armor and taking the hit on the crit damage a little.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to open up a large amount of windows for me and allow my back bar healing staff to benefit even more.
Yes.
So that's going to allow me to kind of adjust my character more freely, I feel like.
Yeah. You might be able to get it more in tune, or like tweak down to where it is exactly you want to be at. It's so as this conversation is going on right now about this particular subject, I was thinking about it. Like, this is the kind of thing I think people don't like about games that make you think about playing the game.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot, you know, you have there's content creators out there. I can't think of any off the top of my head per se, but I know they are out there that do have this conversation where they're like, all right, so I've tested, you know, a 6-1 or a 5-2 is optimal. Talking about like medium and light, like you're talking about.
Right.
There is going to be some optimal like ratio of, all right, I need this many pieces of light, this many pieces of medium. And if I'm going to have if I'm going to do the undaunted metal thing, then I need to have a heavy chest and like heavy legs or something that's
right.
Like where all the armor value is anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not, you know what, maybe that line of thinking is not for everybody, but again, my opinion is if it's not, like,
you know,
don't ruin the entire, like, genre of games for the people who do enjoy that.
And I think the thing about it is that this change actually, it honestly is a benefit to both types.
It is.
For the people who don't want to know much about their stats or just want to play casually, they are now allowed to be more flexible. And for the people who want to be more stats oriented, they have new things to play with.
Yes.
And theory crafting is one of those things that really gets elitist minds going. And it also, I mean, that's probably why we are considered elitist. Because I like to theory craft my characters before even starting the build.
Yeah, absolutely. You get to looking at I'm guilty as hell of it. Like, I'll get to looking at gear sets and I'm like, oh, you know what? Like, I can put this set on the tank and it's going to be unkillable, which he's already. But
what if I use this and this together and then I put this 2-piece on and then I wrap my mind around all this and then I use these abilities.
Right.
And then you start planning it out and you start to math it out in your mind. You're like, oh shit, that could hit hard.
Yeah.
That could hit really hard.
Yes.
And then, you got this going in your mind. You're like, okay, all right, I'm getting it now.
Right.
And that's good. I like that.
Yes.
But I also feel really good for the people down below who aren't going to be hurt by this change. I say below. That
Down
sounds
below.
bad.
It does. It sounds bad, but it's true.
But the people
I'll
who
say
are,
it. I'll say it.
It's not that they're bad players inherently. It's that they're players that want to do easier content.
Right. So they'll find a place that has easier content.
Well, that's where they go to housing and crafting, and I like crafting myself. But you know, there are content forms in the game for people who want to be more casual, like social guilds and stuff like that.
Right. Or taking your armor off and dancing on the woodpile in Vivek City.
Oh my God, how many people have we seen doing that this week? You know what, maybe we should just make a video of just strings of content. Like, hey, look, everyone's naked dancing now, and we just don't know why.
Because it's degenerate night.
I mean, yeah. I remember, God. I don't know where that came from.
Because we don't have servers where they can go do it on their own.
Yeah,
so, they can't just all go congregate.
They need a role-playing server. Just make a role-playing server.
Right.
Just do it. I even role-play my character a little bit in my own mind, but like I'm not gonna go around being, degen real hard.
I don't even know how you get to that. Like through role-playing.
Look. I've played WoW. I've played WoW before, and everyone who's ever played WoW knows about Goldshire Inn on Moonguard. Look. And we don't talk about it. All right, things go hard there. Like, all right, look. Since you don't know, I'll give you the rundown of Moonguard.
Yeah. All
right, we're talking about role players being degenerate. If you ever make a character on a role playing server in WoW and you choose Moonguard, you're choosing a life of sin. And I mean, it's funny though, because if you walk, it's the first inn. Like it's the inn that you walk into if you play a human. Like it's literally right in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's just filled with Draenei women, Night Elf women, Worgen men, and like it gets fucking weird, man. You start seeing space goats and furries down below in the basement area. And you start to question, like, are you sure you want to play on this role-playing server? And then you start, but let's be honest, like, Argent Dawn's the one you go to if you really want to role-play. But if you just want to get your rocks off, I mean, they got Moonguard.
It's just a no.
I've met so many people who have made, like, hundreds of thousands of gold doing this, by the way. I know people who do it, and they pay for their WoW subscription by just walking into Moonguard for like 3 hours.
That's awful.
And awful. And I know that they're guys too.
That's the worst part.
And they're playing and you don't want to go there and figure out who they're playing.
Yeah.
Because if you go in there and you're like, "What's the Draenei chick character? Like, why? Buddy. Like, I play a chick character, but mine looks badass. What's this?"
Yeah.
You're wearing a skirt.
Yeah.
Like, homie, you want to talk to me about something? And then they're like, "Nah, I'm paying for my WoW sub, man. What are you doing?" Like, fuck, you go ahead and pay your $15 a month. I'll just go strip at them all.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking stupid. But, the best part is anonymity, motherfucker. That no one's ever going to know that's a guy behind the screen. But, like,
I think
everyone knows a little.
I think tabletop games generate the most of that.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah. A buddy of mine is going. He's actually going to the convention over this weekend to it's Warhammer 40K convention.
Is he gonna get upset for you by telling everyone about this?
No. And anyway, he was telling me about one he was had in the past. I guess he used to. I'm predisposed to Dungeons and Dragons, so I want to say DM, but I know it's GM, like Game Master or whatever.
Well, that's what it is now. Yeah, I think I remember hearing DM though. It always was DM.
Yeah, because look, like who started it? Like
it's
who
the
made it?
Dungeon Master. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, like he used to do that a lot, and he was telling me the story about some event like that he was at, and I'm not saying it was a 40K event, but he was at some event and he was doing that, and he could hear like over his shoulder, like he's got some hardcore role players at the next table, and they're talking about how their skills affect other stuff that we're not going to talk about on this channel necessarily.
It's all about how his strength stat affects his daily morning routine.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, guys. he ripped it off. I can't believe it.
I'm like, yeah, those are the people, man. You know, everybody has them.
And how do you like? I feel for him. I don't know him. Your friend, but
Yeah.
I can only imagine in his mind he's sitting there like, I can hear the other table.
Yeah.
And now I don't know how to like continue on because
Yeah.
the other table's doing all this, and everyone at my table has to hear it.
Yeah.
So like, how am I going to keep a straight face?
Right.
Like
and he probably didn't know anything.
Yeah, we're trying to go into the tomb of Zaza, you know, and like blah blah blah, you know, bleep bloop noobs, you know, and we're hearing this shit. Like there are spider women things coming off the walls, and we're hearing about this.
Yeah.
Like, and we got webs shooting.
Yeah.
And now we're in trouble because the big bad guy's here.
Yeah.
And like we can't keep a straight face. Like the big bad guy's in front of us, and we're like, "Hey, did you guys hear about what happened at the other table?"
Yeah.
Like, and then it fucking breaks a role playing session when everyone wants to talk about degenerate stuff. But it's funny sometimes.
It is funny. I'll give it that. It's funny.
You know, and you know, like you said, it really is like it's the table that has the one.
It's a thing. If there's a woman sitting at a table and everyone else is a dude, and it's a tabletop convention, weird shit is gonna happen at that one table.
I feel so bad for them too, because it's like you know that they're just hearing this shit, and it's guys trying to be impressive, but they're not.
No, there's nothing impressive.
You know what would be look if you have a nerdy chick who's playing D&D, you want to impress her, build a fucking paladin that's actually worth a damn.
Yeah.
Like, don't come in here talking about that. Make a character that has a good character sheet. She'll be more impressed with that than you're fucking talking about.
I asked him, so this happened. When he was telling me about it, I was like, I didn't really ask him. I more made a suggestion. I was like, the next time that you hear something like that, you need to turn around and look at them and get their attention and be like, hey, dexterity check on you, and I hope you roll a nat 20.
Oh my god.
Like,
yeah, it's bad.
Now you have a real problem. If we're gonna go down this road, now you have a real problem.
Right. Well, I mean, your strength. You know, like I mean, look, if that's not how you do it, though.
We're gonna make it more interesting than what you're trying to make it.
Yeah, strength check, motherfucker. What are we fucking brain dead? Roll a dex check.
Yeah.
Come on, man. What's your armor class? Like, make a DC 17 save. Like, fuck you.
Oh man.
If you fail, a black dragon whelpling comes out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like fuck you guys. I broke Jack over here.
Oh, it's funny. I don't know.
You know, all right, look, my brother, that makes me think about something. My brother used to fuck with me when I was playing Oblivion.
Yeah.
He said that if I beat because he wanted me to get into more role playing, like actually playing the game, because I was really young when I was playing it, like originally. But he wanted me to like get more invested in like storylines, because I kept playing the arena. Like I love the arena because it's actually really fun in Oblivion. So I kept playing the arena, and I remember I used to beat the arena or get close to beating it, and then make a new character and then do it again. Like I don't know what was wrong with me. I was an idiot kid. But my brother, I asked him about it one time, and he said he didn't remember it. But he's fucking with my mind, where he said if you didn't do the Grand Champion's quest before beating him, and you bought a house in the Imperial City, a dragon will fly over and burn your house down.
What?
And all your gear will be gone. And I remembered it, and I feared it so much that the first time I played it on PC, I made sure to do the quest because I was afraid of it happening. Because I stole all my stolen shit was in there, and I didn't want to lose my stolen things that I was selling.
That's so funny.
And I asked him about it afterwards. I was like, "Is that really what happens?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" Like he just said it just to fuck with me. And I think that was what he was trying to do. I think he was trying to get me to play the game more. And just did it in a way to fuck with my mind. But it was funny. You know, it's like role-playing games, man.
Yeah.
Like you got a lot of people in it who take it seriously.
It's kind of like the internet. There is a dark side, and it doesn't take hard. Does not take very much work to find it, and once you're in it, it's really hard to get back away from it.
Well, I mean, if you search long enough, you'll figure anything out.
Yep.
And I think that's so here's the big takeaway from this entire conversation. It's a dex save, not a strength check. I think that's what, if you're going to take anything away from this entire conversation, what you do at nighttime when you're alone is a dex save, not a strength check. And it's specifically a saving throw, because you're probably going to fail a little bit at first.
Yeah.
If you didn't, I mean, you can throw it on a strength check, but it never ends well. So just make the saving throw, and we saved your life, everybody. If there's also a female at the table and you're trying to impress her with, a massive amount of strength on a character, and now you go about your nightly routine.
Yeah.
Maybe instead focus on building a character that's worth a damn, and then being a genuine person.
Yeah. Don't devolve.
Don't devolve.
That's not the answer.
It's bad. Like, I hate it because she was probably so uncomfortable.
Oh, I guarantee it.
I mean, because no one wants to, and I would have been uncomfortable. I would have been. If I was at the table with those guys, I would have been uncomfortable. There's no way that she was like, oh, this is great, entertaining conversation. Like, no, these are dudes with measuring tapes.
Yeah.
They're measuring tapes, and they're measuring tapes with strength.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is clearly dex.
Yeah.
This is clearly dex.
It's bad.
All right, well, I think we talked about enough here. We talked about a RP server, role playing in the dark areas, damp, cavernous area of furries and space goats.
Yeah.
And then we had a conversation about dex saves. Don't be a degenerate.
Yeah.
And don't be one in real life, because that's just not cool, man. The new changes to the game are coming this Monday, and they're gonna be good. And we also talked about how games kind of just don't do what they should anymore. Yeah. Because we're old and grumpy men, and we're tired of.
I thought it would be a good topic, because there is another new game coming out, and we have all this reference. Like, I also saw, like, in the same time frame, I also saw a list of, like, the top most controversial statements made about Skyrim, and of course, number one is the one that we make on this channel. It's not that good a game.
Well, it's
just not.
Well, it's an R8 game. It's just not an RPG.
It's a good not Elder Scrolls game.
It's not an RPG though.
No, it's really not. Not at the fundamental level. It's not.
But is it a role playing game? Well, not really, because you're Dragonborn. You're not playing a role. You're playing Dragonborn.
Right.
Like, The Witcher is more of a role-playing game, and you're playing Geralt.
Right.
Which means that you are already a character, but you can role-play it more than you can role-play a game that they take you out of the world. They're like, look, you could be whatever you want. Yeah. And then 5 minutes in, they're like, by the way, you have a destiny to fulfill.
Right.
And if you don't, the world ends.
Right.
And also, no one's going to stop to thank you for it.
Right.
And if you pick a flower from the wrong area, you're going to get arrested, even though there's a dragon flying overhead. Shout out to Sentinel Scribes, which is the animation I showed you. Yeah. He has one like that where he picks a flower and the guards arrest him for it.
That's awesome.
I can't stand.
Yeah.
Like how Skyrim is just so like we said, don't devolve, guys.
Right. It's backward. It's not progression, it's regressive is what it is. And I just don't want to see that. And I keep seeing more and more and more of this, the difficulty of a game being attacked, because that's what it is. Don't make your game too hard because people won't play it. Yeah, we will. We're here, we'll play it, we'll support it, and we'll tell everybody that didn't, they're stupid and suck at gaming. That's how that's going to play out.
Can you call a game an RPG if it doesn't have strength, intellect, or charisma, or whatever stats, actual attributes?
I really don't think you can. It's all right. So here's one of the great debates that's kind of been a running debate. I'm sure it's still a debate. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. I like the Zelda franchise. I do. It's not an RPG, y'all. It's an open action game.
But I mean, here's the thing. Like I think the thing that defines it is having a character sheet where you can see your stats. Almost. I think that's not the full thing, but having control over the stats.
Yeah. All right. So anybody who's not thinking about it this way is wrong. Tabletop, I'm just gonna say that's their fucking wrong.
Well, I mean, I guess we're gonna start by just pulling the trigger and walking over bodies.
That's why I'm about that. I think I've made that abundantly clear on this channel. Here's the thing.
You're wrong.
RPGs developed from tabletop RPGs, like the RPGs that we have nowadays, and in the past, like on gaming consoles, any gaming console, like PC included. It's
not a console though, but I'll go ahead.
It's a gaming platform, is what it is, and they're getting so close to one another. Eventually, they won't be different.
Well,
The thing is this: they had an origin. That origin was a particular way that had particular mechanics that worked in a particular way. You had a structure of how this game works, and that's where these games came from.
Yes.
So, losing that is going to be what you're going to lose. What makes the games what they are, and fundamentally, what makes them good games. Like, it's cool to make an open action adventure game. That's cool.
I mean, I love Zelda.
Right.
I fucking love Zelda. Like, I love Breath of the Wild to such a degree that I'll just get invested in it for hours.
They don't pose it as an RPG. They don't say, "Hey, this is modern day Dungeons and Dragons," or "This is whatever it is."
And you doesn't even have to follow Dungeons and Dragons entirely. Like, there are so many other types. Like, there was.
Yeah, there are.
You have Dungeons and Dragons. You have the GURP system. You have.
But there's
you have so many. I can't remember all of them, but you know what I mean. You have fundamental rules of the engagement.
Yeah, you have. There were structures built and put in place, and all of these are adaptations on those structures. What's not an adaptation is erasing the structure. That's not an adaptation. We should have made this game in a different environment or under a different genre and called it something different.
So did you know that in 5th edition they removed a bunch of the racial stuff?
Yes.
Which is... that just hurt. Like, Tabletop was the one place you could go to get a real role-playing.
Yes.
And that's why I prefer 5.3 or 3.5, I mean. Yeah. 3.5 was probably my favorite because, races mattered more.
Yeah.
And there are look, it's not like the real world where every person is a, individual, we're, whatever. It's like when we're going into video games.
Yeah, when you're going, if you're in a fantasy setting.
And these are, you have an orc standing next to a high elf. These are fundamentally different.
Yes.
This isn't humanity and humanity. These aren't two humans.
Right.
These are beast race almost, in an elven, superior, thinking way,
Right.
And when you look at it, it's these two beings are way. I know you're laughing because I said elven supremacy, and you really believe it. But thinking about it, it's these are two different fucking fundamental things.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. To stick with the Elder Scrolls analogy, right? The Bosmer are different. Even amongst elves, they're different. They live different. The wild hunt's a thing to them.
They eat people.
Right.
They eat anything. If they kill it, they eat it, and that includes people.
Yeah. And then you have the Dunmer. That's different. You have the Dwemer. That's different.
And not only
Redguards. They're different.
They're different culturally. And they're different physically.
Yes.
And they're different biologically.
Yes.
Different. They have been either influenced by some being outside them or out by the land they live in.
Yes.
And which means that these things are not the same.
Right.
One of these things is not like the other.
Exactly.
As you know.
Yeah.
And it's
you're taught that as a 3-year-old, by the way.
Right. And like, I feel like an orc wizard should still be able to pick you up by your throat and throw you across the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel
and
like
they're probably not going to make such a great, orcs are probably not going to make such a great sorcerer. Like, they might.
I mean, look, if
they got some speed, I get that.
Look,
which is weird because they're big.
Yeah, you're never going to be the best wizard, but you can break a wizard's neck now.
Right.
So it kind of makes you you might not be the best wizard, but you can be the last one.
Yeah, you can be the last one, and now you're the best by proxy.
If you kill the best one by breaking his neck, I guess technically you're the best wizard in Telvanni house rule. So, that's kind of how it works.
I ran into the house, I'm not there yet, but I ran into the house concept today in Morrowind, by the way.
Did you not do it when you first played?
So I'm not to the point where I can start doing that shit.
Oh,
I just joined the guild.
Well, you can start them pretty early, but I would recommend, if I was you, Telvanni's the best one.
Oh, yeah.
But Redoran's pretty good too if you're planning to be that, because you're playing a Red Guard, which is not an elven supremacist, surprisingly.
No, well, look, I'm trying to make a spellblade,
But that's where it comes down to. Is like an orc wizard can break your neck, but he can't. Maybe his spells might not go off as big booms.
Right.
But an elf can make big booms, but you touch him with the wrong fly swatter and he falls apart.
But
that's how it kind of...
Imperials, built their culture around elves, so...
But that's how it, you know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, no, I
the races are different because they're fundamentally, built different. An orc's skin is leathery.
Right.
Whereas if you're an elven supremacist and you lived in the Somerset for your whole life, I don't exactly think you've been a hard worker.
You're kind of squishy.
It
is what it is.
Well, you're mostly just muscle. You don't even got bone. You just poke at them and you're like,
Yeah. So I think, given the context given the subject this conversation started with, I think a good question for this episode would be,
are you an elven supremacist?
Do you... We're going to get overwhelming yeses from that. Do you enjoy the more difficult gameplay? Do you think games should be more accessible? And I know that I sound like I really don't want a yes as an answer to that, but I do. I want to hear perspective. I think we both want to hear perspective on that.
Well, yeah, we're just two guys talking in the garage in a Microsoft startup over here. While we think this way, it's not like we're the full opinion.
No, it's not. I do believe that what we're saying is, and I don't just believe it. I know it because I know where these people congregate, right? I've talked to them. So
I went into their sphere for a moment.
No, it's true though. I used to hang out on 4chan. I used to, do Reddit and all that stuff.
I don't think.
I get it.
Is that a brag or is that an admittance of guilt?
It's a little bit of both. So, but in all seriousness, what's your opinion on difficulty of games and in relation to how does that make them not accessible to people, or do you think it's like a... Well, it's a laziness thing, or, because you can have... I feel like there's a difference between wanting to be able to play the game and just wanting to be able to automatically be good at the game, even though you're not.
I think the games... My personal opinion about it all, and this is my opinion on answering the question, because I think I should answer the question myself as well, because I feel like I should talk more, is that... I think games should be... I think games should allow you, no matter how your skill level is, to learn the game.
Yeah.
That's if the game doesn't teach you how to play the game, then it's not a good game, really.
Right, it's not.
And then by teaching you, I don't mean here's a tutorial prompt. I mean you hit a brick wall, and then you found out that there was an alchemy set. And now you got fortify intelligence potions.
Right.
That's where learning comes in.
Right.
Learning isn't always enforced. It doesn't need to be enforced in a way to where you have to learn how to dodge roll. It's you should learn it by just playing the game.
Right.
And I think that's the difficulty. That's your difficulty slider, really. Is you don't need a difficulty slider when all it is how much can you learn? And if the game can teach you to play it right,
yes,
then you should be good. And that's the only thing I think the game is required to do, is teach you enough how to win at basic mechanics.
Right.
And then otherwise, the rest is left to you.
Yeah.
If you can't grasp the basic mechanics of the game, and I say basic mechanics because some of them are advanced, but they are the mechanics of the basic, like, principle of where everything's built on.
Right.
So if you cannot master or at least learn in a way to become at least an adept of that, like, basic understanding,
right,
maybe the game isn't for you.
Right.
But if you can learn it and you can master it in a way that you can dodge roll out of every hit and you never have to take damage, then that game is perfect for you.
Right.
Not every game is for everyone, just like not every car is for everyone, and just like how every piece of wall art is different. It invokes something different for everyone. And I think if it was any other thing other than video games, this question wouldn't be brought up.
Probably not. So let us know what you guys think about that down in the comments. This is don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I started to say something different. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.
Don't forget to check out the Reddit pages. I've been lagging behind a bit on uploading some of them on the Reddit page. I'll be getting onto that and putting them back up there. However, I did lag behind a second on it. But if you check it out today, you might not see as much. But we will be uploading more on there. Jack, you do the Twitter stuff.
Yep.
More like. So how's that been going for you?
It's been going pretty decent.
Yeah.
Both of those are a more direct way. We do respond to as many of the comments as possible.
I want to say that we do have our personal, like, messaging us. Like, if you want to message us directly on a DM, we have that open.
Yeah.
And so if you were to have any questions directly, you can inbox us on that or
suggestions. Like the lore series came out of a suggestion from somebody who, watches the content.
And we're definitely willing to try our hat at things. I mean, hell, whenever I first wanted to make when I wanted to make the first one, I was a bit nervous myself on making it. But then getting into it, the first one after doing it, I felt way better about it. And hell, I mean, if you want to see some content at it, we're definitely willing to throw our hat in and try it.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be it for today's video. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, I know this is a longer video. I think we understand I think I'm speaking for both of us when I say we understand you didn't have to stick around this long, but we appreciate it if you did.
And I'm speaking for both of us to say, the Bretons are the best race in the Elder Scrolls universe.
That's a one-sided statement.
No, he can speak for me on one thing, but I get to speak for him on another, so it's okay.
It ain't that.
It is, though.
Anyway, so that'll be it for today's video. This has been Jack.
This has been Spy. And we're signing out now.
See you guys in the next video.
See ya.